One thing rational people can agree on: Donald Trump's presidency is going to come to a premature end. The signs are everywhere, as are the scandals which threaten to bring him down. All that remains unclear is exactly how the Trump administration will end, and when. Since we cannot accurately gauge the timing of this downfall, let's look at the scenarios that will finally allow us to say goodbye to this criminal and traitor who has sold his country out for financial gain and political power. Salon writer Lucien K. Truscott recently engaged in a thought experiment and came up with 4 endgames that will see Trump removed from office. 1. Indictment. In this scenario, Special Counsel Robert Mueller finds enough evidence that Trump has committed various crimes, obstruction of justice, money laundering, conspiracy against the United States, that he indicts the sitting president. This would then set up a ruling at the Supreme Court to decide if the president can indeed be indicted. As Truscott explains, while a previous Supreme Court decision, Clinton v. Jones, 520 U.S. 681, 1997, found unanimously that a president does not have immunity from a civil lawsuit. The court has not faced a decision as to whether a sitting president can be criminally indicted. 2. Impeachment. Mueller doesn't bother with indictment in this possible outcome. Instead, he writes a report which is then forwarded to Congress by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The House would have to recommend impeachment, and the Senate would hear the case. If 2/3 of senators vote to impeach, Trump becomes toast and is booted from office. 3. Pardons, and more pardons. Suppose Trump isn't personally indicted, but lots of his top aides, friends, and family members are. For example, Michael Cohen, Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump Jr. are all indicted. A very likely outcome, then Trump could just start issuing pardons in an attempt to shield himself from prosecution. But there's a flaw to this plan. As Truscott notes, a pardon of a man like Michael Cohen might save Trump from the possibility that Cohen would flip and testify against him rather than face trial. But an argument could be made that having been granted a pardon would relieve Cohen of his Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination, and he could still be compelled to testify against Trump. So Trump may not be able to pardon his way out of trouble in a showdown with Mueller after all. Also, Trump can only pardon people charged with federal crimes. In New York, where a separate investigation is being conducted by the state attorney general, Trump would be totally powerless to shield his associates from being charged with serious crimes. 4. The Nixon formula. Many theorize that Trump is only interested in being president for one reason: to further enrich himself. So he'll do virtually anything to protect his personal fortune and extravagant lifestyle, especially after he leaves office. Solution: Trump agrees to resign and Mike Pence pardons him soon afterwards. But again, that wouldn't shield Trump from state charges. No matter how it happens, Trump is headed for an early exit from the Oval Office. Now we just have to wait and see which of these outcomes takes place.
Jesse, I saw throughout the campaign in 2016 how they were constantly wrong. I saw even leading up to the midterms how I don't think they were completely accurate as we went into the midterms. So we, of course, see them and we take note. But
do you guys have internal polling that you look at that differs from mainstream media polling a little bit?
And it is different.
It is different.
It is very different. And I think what we've seen with polls is that people are not always truthful when it comes to supporting President Trump.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because the media makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, or it's a bad thing to support a president who will go down in history as one of the greatest our country has ever had.
Yeah, because they always say that, you know, Republican voters, especially Donald Trump voters, they don't talk to the exit polling people. They hang up the phone when, you know, Reuters calls and asks them what they think of the president. And maybe people don't want to say to their neighbor, oh yeah, I'm voting for President Trump for re-election. do you think it's because the media has conditioned Americans to feel guilty about supporting this president because they think he's so controversial?
Well, I think that's a definite component of it. I think that the media makes you feel like there's something wrong with you if you have very vocal support for this president. You see the way they talk about Trump supporters at Trump rallies and the negative things that get said about them. You see people going out to have a nice dinner that get accosted by people thanks to people like Maxine Waters telling you that you should get up in their face and kick them when they're down, like Eric Holder. I think that there is some really scary stuff that's being said, and it really does make it hard sometimes to voice your support for a great president.
Someone threw a drink in my face on election night after I was a little rowdy when the president won Wisconsin and Michigan. It was a free drink. That's how I took it.
There you go.
All right, so re-election. Harris Faulkner just interviewed the president and asked about some Republicans potentially primarying him. Here's what he had to say.
I'm going to bring up John Kasich, and I'm going to bring up Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, because they say they may run against you in 2020.
I hope so. I think you have the greatest base in the history of politics. I have people that I love and that love me, frankly. That includes a lot of women. I got a tremendous percentage of women last time. Remember, I wasn't going to get women. I wasn't going to.
I interviewed some of the women for Trump. Yes.
I got women that they're the greatest. And I have tremendous women support.
We'll get to the women in a second, but do you believe the president really wants Flake and Kasich to primary him?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that, well, what a waste of money. This is a president who is easily going to win re-election, Jesse. I think based on the great job that he's doing, he is his best commercial, because everything he does every day that is so beneficial for people across this country is the reason that I think he's going to win by more in 2020 than he even did in 2020.
Yeah, I think it's a fantasy if those two try to primary him. It's a fool's errand. So he's saying that he has tremendous female support. He won a majority of white women in 2016. But overall, you keep hearing about these suburban, college-educated female voters that he really needs to have come out for him more enthusiastically than they did in 2016. Are you guys paying attention to that voting group?
No, certainly. We pay attention to all voting groups because every person in this country has the right to one vote, and we want everyone to get out there and vote.
Do you have a strategy to really turn out those women?
Well, I think, again, the president is going to do the best job of that himself. And I think a lot of it is reminding women what this president has accomplished in this country, why it's a better future for them, why there are more opportunities for them. Look at female unemployment in this country, the lowest it's been in like 60 years or something. I'm sure we'll get to lowest in all time at some point. It's a safer country thanks to Donald Trump. It's a better country for women with children in thanks to Donald Trump. So
safety and prosperity.
Trump, do solemnly swear.
And Donald Trump's inaugural address set the tone for what was to follow.
Rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation.
A bleak vision of an America victimized by crime, drugs, gangs, and greedy allies.
This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. Thank you. God bless you.
When the speech was over, former President George W. Bush was heard to say, "That was some weird shit." Donald Trump's presidency was barely half an hour old, and already some were wondering how long it would last. But Trump has hardly changed his ways to look more presidential. Indeed, for 2 years, things just got weirder.
I can be more presidential than any president in history, except for possibly Abe Lincoln with a big hat. I don't know.
At his campaign-style rallies, the president still unleashes the version of reality that his base clearly wants to see. During the campaign, his rhetoric invited violence.
Get him out! Get him out!
Which he frequently got.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
And in the White House, he's continued the attacks.
That's enough. Put down the mic. You are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Casting the media as the tool of the elite.
They are the fake, disgusting news.
whom he blames for holding down his followers.
Great to have you back in the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. I am your Godzilla of the Truth, coming to you live today from your nation's capital. Right.
Conservative radio host John Fredericks is one of Trump's first and staunchest supporters.
Now, the Canadian Broadcasting Company is here, so the Canadians are coming to town. So they're in here actually filming my show right now. They look like very nice people. Thanks for being here. Hello, Canada.
Fredericks says he's known from day one that Trump's enemies, especially congressional Democrats, would try to remove him from office.
Look, they're going to have to start impeachment hearings. It doesn't matter if there's no charges or what the charges are. It doesn't matter. They're going to attempt to impeach the president in the House for putting grape jelly on a peanut butter sandwich. I mean,
according to Fredericks, Trump's true believers are convinced the president has freed them after years of elite government, which they say was an economic disaster for working people.
Jobs getting shipped overseas, manufacturing plants getting closed, wages going down. Nobody has cared about the U.S. worker, the manufacturing worker, the blue-collar worker.
Let me ask you about your perception of Trump, then. I lived in New York for a decade. Donald Trump was everywhere. He was Mr. New York. He was not the champion of the little guy or the blue-collar worker. Why do you see him as this champion of that class?
It's his policies, Bob. He had no champion until Trump came along with policies to protect jobs and raise wages.
You are the Godzilla of truth.
Yes, thank you.
No gibberish, no nonsense,
yes.
Just common sense.
You got it.
How then, if truth is at the heart of what you do you handle all the untruths that have been coming out of the president's mouth since he was inaugurated?
What has he lied about?
Well,
Bob?
several thousand times, according to the Washington Post and PolitiFact and others who have been checking him.
The fact is, this president is the first president in history that is actually trying to do exactly what he said he would do. And so that is why people in this town are going crazy over it, because he's going to hold every politician to a brand new standard.
But with the Democrats controlling the House, John Fredericks knows they're now in position to hold Donald Trump himself to a whole new standard.
The subpoena cannons are coming out, and they're fully loaded. And so for the next 18 months, what you're going to get is subpoena after subpoena after subpoena after subpoena.
Congresswoman Jackie Speer will be one of those wielding the subpoenas. The Democrat from California has been in Congress for a decade, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, investigating Trump for possible election and financial misdeeds.